I constantly get videos in my inbox that you guys want me to react to or give my take on. And so today we are doing a reaction video to the most viral ancient Egypt TikToks. So without any further ado, let us begin.
What if I told you that the pyramids are not the most mysterious structure in ancient Egypt? And in fact, the most mysterious structure is behind this temple. Behind the temple of Seti I lies something called the Osirion. And the Osirion temple has baffled Egyptologists for years. And if you want to head down there and have a close look at it, it's going to cost you $800. It is closed to the public and you can only really see it from above where I'm standing now. If you do wish to go down there, well, it needs some special arrangements. And as I said, an $800 ticket. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's a lot of question marks over the Osirion. First of all, when was it built exactly? And why was it built? What was its real purpose? And why is it on a completely different level to the temple of Seti I that lays behind it?
Yeah, so this is a huge mystery, and he is definitely correct about there being so many more mysteries and so many things in Egypt to sink your teeth into other than just the pyramids. In fact, I find the more I study ancient Egypt, the more enchanted I become about everything other than the pyramids. It's not that they're fascinating, but it's just that everybody's interested in the pyramids and there is so much publication about them. But places like the Osirion here have not as much publication at all, and it's still kind of a toss-up, even among the most conservative of Egyptologists, when exactly the Osirion was built. So the Osirion is thought to be a kind of symbolic burial place for the god Osiris. It's often thought that his head symbolically was buried here. But there are a lot of strange things about the Osirion. The first being its location and the context of its finding. It runs right up to the temple of Seti. Now, a lot of ancient Egyptian temples are built with this eye formation where you have these different, I guess, atriums that you walk through, but usually they are created in a straight line, almost like an eye, at least if you're looking at it from the bird's eye view or you're looking at a blueprint of a temple. But this temple is created as though it's an L, almost as if the temple was begun, and as they erected the first atrium, moved back to the second atrium, Seti and his builders discovered an ancient ruin that had been buried deep within the ground, and that was the Osirion. And then they L'd the other half, or the last third of the temple, off to the side. It may be actually the only example of an L-shaped Egyptian temple that I know of, or at least that I could find. So that's one of the pieces of evidence that leads people to think, well, it looks more like Seti actually discovered the remnants of this ancient temple. Now, there's more differences. The entire construction of the Osirion are these huge megalithic, solid red Aswan granite columns. And people look at it and they say, this really isn't anything that I have seen that even remotely resembles the 19th dynasty. In the 19th dynasty, yes, they are erecting massive statues. They are erecting large temples, but they're not building temples quite like the Osirion. Actually, what the Osirion more greatly resembles is only one other temple in all of ancient Egypt, which is the Khafra Valley Temple, which is also made out of these huge red Aswan granite pillars. But actually, those red Aswan granite pillars are not even nearly the size of the pillars in the Osirion. So that's a huge mystery there. But down inside of the Osirion, you do see hieroglyphs all over the walls, and then we do see evidence in these keystones of Seti's name being imprinted on the keystones where there are these cracks. Some people interpret this as Seti discovered the temple and he was repairing it, and he was claiming credit for the repair, and that Egyptians in the 19th dynasty went down into the temple and repurposed it, put their hieroglyphs along the walls, and this happened during the reign of Seti, and so some Egyptologists attribute it to Seti. There's also, and so some Egyptologists attribute it to Seti. But when I look at it, I see a temple that actually resembles the Old Kingdom even more so than most Old Kingdom temples do. And so it wouldn't surprise me if there were some kind of evidence that were discovered that proved to us that this was in fact created sometime, let's call it during the 4th dynasty, more specifically in the Old Kingdom. If it's not that, and this actually was a monument or a temple site that was created during the 19th dynasty, then it's clearly something that is hearkening back to this long ago primordial age of ancient Egypt, such as the Old Kingdom. And to kind of give you a timeline here, the 19th dynasty occurs sometime around 1200 to 1100 BC. However, the Old Kingdom, again the 4th dynasty specifically, occurs around 25 to 2400 BC. So this is more than 1,000 years before. And in the ancient Egyptian mind, that is hearkening back to this lost golden age, this primordial time that existed long, long ago and sits in the back of the minds of all of the Egyptians living within the 19th dynasty. So one way or the other, it is hearkening back to the Old Kingdom. In my opinion, it is purposely, whether inherently or whether inspired, it is meant to hearken back to that Old Kingdom style. This isn't something that is very uncommon. In the Saite dynasty, we also see the pharaohs and the artisans returning back to that Old Kingdom sort of glamour. And there's even a lot of it's hard sometimes for Egyptologists to find discrepancies between Saite dynasty, which I believe is around 800 BC. So this is the late period of ancient Egypt, long after the Old Kingdom. But they are taking it back. They're hearkening back to the Old Kingdom. And so it's hard for some Egyptologists to actually make a discrepancy between some of the statues and monuments of the Saite dynasty and the Old Kingdom.